And we're on. Good morning, good evening to everybody. Awesome to have Dave back on the channel. How you doing, Dave?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I just visited the chiropractor.
I was going to say, what's been going on?
Oh, there's a little back problem going on. Yeah.
This,
too many amps lifted, I think, over my period of my life. You know, first time I've ever gone though.
I was going to say, is this a new thing or is this something that's been going on for a little while?
Well, yeah, I couldn't get out of bed. So
wow, really?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So
that's no good. So we did one of these. I was trying to remember, Dave. It was a few months ago now, wasn't it? When I think Mark was off, not well, and we certainly I think we got a pretty good reaction to it because I think we're probably a little bit more in the weeds than perhaps in a Tone Talk episode, getting right down into circuit level discussion. So I mean, I certainly enjoyed it. I think you did too, didn't you?
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's chatting about something that someone might like or not like.
I know.
Here, look, we started it. Right? I don't trust chiropractors. See?
Yeah, this is the thing about the stuff that I do on my channel is I'm always like, so far down in the weeds, and I often check with people that watch, like, is this the right level? And everyone's like, yeah, go lower. Go lower. So this is an awesome way to start. I was just saying today before we came on air, guys, that and I think most of the people that watch my channel know, I just finished up with my day job. I was still working 4 days a week and doing the head first thing part-time. So I finished up on Friday. So this is literally my first day. It's Saturday morning here in Australia, if you don't know. My first day on this business full-time. So what better way to start it than a live stream with Dave Friedman? So good way to start, I reckon. Right, so we
have no life.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Why do we do this? We don't do it for money necessarily. We do it because we love it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this is
no one's getting rich.
No. We're having a rich life, but it just doesn't involve a lot of money. This is a Q&A stream, guys. So if you've got any of your usual Ask Dave questions, hit them up. And obviously, the lower we can go and the deeper we can go into amp tech stuff, I think both of us will enjoy that. So, Dave, I've got a pretty hard question straight out of the gate here that we're going to bring up.
Oh yes, I saw this already.
Yeah, so so Ben's asking how Dave could justify the prices of his amps. Nothing proprietary. The components are of average quality, so I'd like to pick apart that part. And other quote unquote hand wired amps cost a third.
When you say nothing proprietary, I mean, there's proprietary transformers that we use. There's proprietary chassis we use. I mean, you're talking circuits. I don't know if anyone's stuff is proprietary necessarily. The cost of the amps. I mean, okay, we're not a little company. It's not a garage-based business where it's just me making an amp and selling it to the public directly. There's a whole host of people that have to sort of eat from this, so to speak. There's your dealer. So your dealer makes a good margin on product, you have if you're doing it on a large volume, you have sales guys you have to employ to help you do the sales internationally. And here you have other people you employ, a production manager. We have Todd, our production manager down at the factory. Todd orders all the parts for all the brands and handles a whole ton of stuff all the time. And, he has to make money. You have two different customer service guys at the factory that help facilitate any issues or any problems with your gear. You're in California. Wages are not cheap.
Yep.
Minimum wage in California, I think, is something like $16 ish. Don't quote me exactly. 16.50, something around there. Okay. And so that's just the starting wage, but most people aren't at the starting wage. They're higher than that. And we have a cabinet shop. We do our own cabinets. We make our own panels in house. We can customize an amp quickly for you, cosmetically, or mechanically. Just the cost of doing business in California. There's an accountant. There's a business office part. That has to get paid. There's insurance, and that's a lot.
Yeah. Hey, you've got the CE or the certification.
CE certifications, yes, correct. We have to get those done on every product. We have design partners, PC board guys that help us do stuff, and we have another designer that helps do more technically advanced things, like DSP and different things like that. So all this costs money, a lot of money.
Yeah, those PCB guys are expensive, right?
Yeah, and I don't really think it can be. And I don't necessarily think it's that out of line. I mean, if you look at like, for instance, I have no idea where you're at, but if you look at Sweetwater Music, for instance, in the U.S., a Marshall 1959 hand-wired amp is $38.49. That's what it sells for. That's just a Plexi circuit, not multiple channels. It's a single channel amp, so to speak. Heck, the Marshall 4x12 cabinet, hand-wired angled cabinet, is $2,000 now. A Fender 57 custom twin amp, 212, 40-watt tube combo amp, $3,600. A 64 deluxe custom deluxe reverb reissue, 20-watt 112 combo, $3,000. I don't think it's really that far out of line.
It's an interesting, Dave. I mean,
Wizard amps, way more than ours.
Yeah, Wizard is an interesting one, right? Because that's a direct, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but that's more of a direct sale model.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, I mean, and I don't even know what a Sir SL68 is these days, but it's over three-ish or over.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting question.
Unfortunately, this is the cost. It's just there's no way around it. I mean, you should see the insurance premiums.
Having visited the facility, Dave, so. While I was over in the States, probably 3-4 weeks ago now, I guess, Dave kindly took me to the factory and we did a tour and a walkthrough. I met Todd, and Todd's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
Todd's actually helped me out directly, right? You hooked me up with Todd to get into the Synergy caps, which I've been using as well, which has been awesome. But
those are expensive, handmade, U.S. made, handmade caps.
Can we just talk about those for a second, Dave? How did the Synergy thing come to be? Like, where did it come from? And
well, where it came from is there was Sozo next generation. I never really cared for Sozos until he came up with the Sozo next generation cap.
Oh yeah, I remember those. And were you using the Mallory M150s?
Yes.
Back in the day?
It was. Yeah. Because that was a good choice. I mean, it was a good, decent choice. I don't know, hand wired, so we wanted an axial kind of cap originally.
Yeah.
When it was turret board stuff. And it's a good choice. It doesn't sound as good as the Synergy Royal Mustard caps now.
Mhm.
So what happened was Sozo, we wanted to use them, but he didn't have them. And we had found out essentially that he was not paying his vendor. He was behind in payments to the vendor.
Do you know where they were being manufactured, the Sozos?
Yeah, I do, but I'm not necessarily revealing who makes them. But they're made here in the U.S. By a company here in the U.S. Somewhere back east. I have to double check where. And we contacted them and like, hey, we want these caps.
Yeah.
And Avi, who is the boutique owner, boutique amps distribution owner, essentially made a deal with him and guaranteed that we would use X amount of caps and guaranteed we would pay. And essentially, we just took it over. And we called it, obviously, a different name because we can't call it that. And then Sozo later partnered with CE Distribution, I do believe. And I think they had their version of the cap made by some other manufacturer. It's not the original manufacturer that did it.
Are they because they had that blue, they had a range of blue ones, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, really. Yeah.
That were more Fender based, like Astron Fender based. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can still get those through, I think we did it for them through Valvestorm. I think you can still get those caps. I think we actually facilitated that.
You can buy Synergy from Valvestorm too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how that all came about. I mean, whether I was supposed to say all that or not, I don't know, but I did.
Yeah.
So
a couple of other comments just on this topic. Yeah, Wendell, I couldn't agree more. I mean, having seen the scale of what Dave's operation is, and say compared to like someone like me, it's a whole different animal. Particularly as you're Dave, you're going through distributors and retailers. Yeah, I mean, I know you and I.
We're going through retailers. We don't use we use a distributor in Japan, but we don't because they don't work any other way there. But we have our own European sales guy that acts as sort of our guy on the ground in Europe.
Yeah.
So
and like if amps into Australia, are they straight into the retailers that are here?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Through our European sales guy. Yeah. I mean, not through them, but straight from the factory directly to Australia.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, I mean the distributor thing is a bit antiquated at this point because that just puts another cut into the money. The amps would even have to be more if they were,
Totally.
Is
that kind of the old model I don't know, right? But like if you go back,
that was kind of more like 80s, 90s into the 2000s. People would use a distributor, like Mesa Boogie would use a distributor for Europe. And basically all the amplifiers are sold to the distributor, which makes it easier for the company. Because the one distributor buys all the amps, but then they're responsible for customer service and everything else. And a lot can go wrong with that kind of model.
Totally.
Yeah, a lot can go wrong. So yeah, but so as far as anything else too, I mean, with the amps, I mean, it's the American made caps and Haybor transformers, and which I think are the finest transformer you can get.
I agree with that.
Is for an amp, I think. I mean, people talk about mercury magnetics and this and that, and I don't really care for how they sound, and I don't think they sound like an old transformer. And the whole goal would be to sound like, for me, at least for my amps, would be to sound like an old transformer.
100%. And I think if you were using mercury, your amps would even be more expensive, right?
Yeah, because the transformers are 3 times the amount of money.
They are pricey.
Yeah.
I mean, you should try and buy them out here. I mean, you can only buy them direct, I think, from Mercury, and then you add shipping to Australia on top of that. It's just insane.
Yeah. So, and other than that, it's like Vishay metal film, B plus resistors, Vishay picofarad caps, high 562 series, great. We use carbon film resistors because I like carbon film resistors. I mean, I like how they sound, and they're mostly 1 watt carbon film resistors. Really thick PCBs. Metal Carling switches for the toggles, the big toggles. Where is it?
I don't know. And the other thing that people probably realize, but it's when you see it, you kind of go, oh wow, of course, all the woodwork, right? So when you think about amplifiers and you think about the electronic side, transformers, obviously a chassis, blah blah blah, all the stuff that goes into it. But then when you tour the BAD facility, you walk from one building into the next. Well, it feels like it's the next building, which is separate. Definitely separate, yeah, kind of together, right? But it's separate. And then you got this massive woodworking facility where all the cabinetry is all cut,
made,
glued together, and then
together, and then shipped over to the other building where they do all the Tolexing in any color your heart desires.
Yeah,
literally. Some colors I wish that were never existed, but
I think you pointed out a couple of them to me.
Yeah.
You said, I don't like that one. I don't like that one.
Something about a canary yellow amp is not gonna no. Or yeah. Some of the snakeskin varieties are a little rough.
Yeah, well, snakeskin works on a Soldano, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Leave that for Mike. Look, it's a really good question, Ben, and like I'm actually happy you asked it because it's like, it's good to explore it and kind of understand why you.
Sure, but like I said about that is again, we're UV printing our face panels. I mean, if someone really wants different names on the face panel and they can come up with what names they want, it could be done.
Yeah, I saw them being printed. Yeah.
If you want one knob to be, ass and one to be whatever words you want to use, shit, whatever, you can have it. I mean, it obviously costs extra to do a custom panel, but we can do it. I can do it in a day. Good luck getting anything done in a day anywhere with an outside vendor. So,
Well, everything's done in house. I don't think I only saw anything that was outsourced in terms of all the componentry comes into the factory and then the amps built.
Correct. Yep.
Look, Ben's followed up with another point here. So, yeah, all good. All good. All right. Let's
All right, no problem, Ben.
Yeah, all good, Ben.
Unfortunately, there's a cost of doing business, and when you're doing business on a large scale, and Jason can attest, it's a large scale.
Oh yeah.
This is like amps everywhere.
Yeah, there's stuff going on everywhere in there.
Yeah.
It's a busy place for sure. We've got a question from Modern Vintage. Hey, good to see you on the stream, man. Dave, ideal ohm value to set amplifiers when using them with the Ampede switcher.
Well, what cabinets are you using? I mean, that's the key. I mean, I know an Ampede amp switcher will allow you to put 2 cabinets on at the same time, which then that automatically changes the impedance. But if you're doing 1 cabinet at a time, whatever the cabinets are, really.
Yeah, so there's nothing in the switcher itself that is providing a load for the active amp. Like it's just
it's straight through
a direct connection. So you got to match it to whatever you're plugging into.
Straight through. But it's okay. It's not bad. You can mismatch some stuff a little bit. It's not the end of the world. If you have your amp set for 16 and you put on the other cabinet and it's 2 16 cabinets at its 8, you're not going to hurt the amp. Yeah, and likewise, if the amp's set at 8 and you're running into 16, you're not going to hurt the amp. The one-way mismatch just a little bit. It's not going to do anything. Yeah, it's not really going to do anything. It'll sound a little different.
Yeah, totally. So
For
Dave,
sure.
you have because I've got this on my amp, and I know you've got it. You guys can't see it, but I've got a Jakey Lee sitting right here, the JEL 100. It's got the half power switch on the back.
Is that yours?
Yeah, that's mine.
Oh yeah, you did buy that.
Yeah, I bought it from a guy in Florida, I think he is. So I had to convert it, wired it to 240, but you know, of course, all Dave's power transformers from Haber are international primary, so you don't have to replace the power transformer, you just rewire it.
It's a brutal amp.
Yeah, it's cool. It's awesome. And in 50-watt mode, is that just lifting the cathodes on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just lifting the cathode.
And I mean, to keep the reflected load identical for the power tubes, you could change the impedance back one, but you don't.
Yeah.
Well,
you can.
You don't kind of have to. Like it'll.
You don't have to. You can listen to it both ways, though.
Yeah.
I mean, see which way you like better.
It does sound slightly different, right?
Neither way is going to sound, and neither way is going to hurt the amp.
Yeah.
It still has a good solid load on it. You know, it's radical mismatches that are radically higher than the load that are going to cause issues.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to be too away. It's like it's probably not ideal. Question here about the JMP1. Yeah, look, I back in the early 90s, I had an ADA MP1, and
that's very different.
Yeah, and at the time though, like around the place, like anyone who had any kind of rack setup, where people were using JMP1s or
they're great
ones. Yeah, I never owned one. Never owned.
Oh, you should have one.
Yeah. Before they
get
next
purchase
outrageously expensive. So
JMP1 is, how do I rate? I think it's way better than JCM 900. I do not understand. I still to this day do not understand why they at the time that came out, they did not do an amp with that as a front end into a power amp. It would be a MIDI amp.
Well, this is true.
It would have been great, and it would have sounded better than any of their amps at the time. Why?
Were there, I mean, now that you say that, were there actually MIDI amps around then? I mean, obviously MIDI rack gear for sure.
Yeah, there really wasn't. I mean, they could have done an amp head with the front end of that, and it would have been great. And I don't understand why they didn't. I really don't. I think it would have been great. JMP1. Yeah, OD1 setting, if I can remember this. With gain, I don't know. It depends on where you like your gain, but probably gain up. I think the gain went to, didn't it go to 18 or 20 or something? I think the gain around 15 or 16, if I recall, on the numbers.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, OD1 setting, and then the bass, middle, and treble all at 5. Presence, I think, also I had at 5, because it was really weird with the mids. If you took the mids down one notch, it was drastic, and if you put it up one notch from 5, it was also drastic. The bass might have been at 5 or 6, I think, and the treble around 6, and the presence, I think, around 5 or 6 also. And then the master to whatever volume you needed it to be, and it worked great. It just worked great like that.
Have you ever looked at the JMP1 schematic in any?
Yeah, it's mostly solid state.
Yeah, well, I haven't. I mean, I'm kind of curious now. So I've looked at the ADA MP1 quite a lot, and you can see like
similar.
Yeah, I mean when you think about the EQ and the tone stack is completely different than what you would see.
Yeah, it is. It's totally different. But when you said it, like I said, you said it like I said, it sounds like a proper Marshall. Sounds good.
Yep. Yeah.
So I mean, can't complain. The clean is not the greatest in the world.
Yeah, you're probably not buying a JMP one for the.
No,
I mean, you need a serviceable clean probably, but you know.
And I don't really care for no base shift. I think there was a base shift switch, none of that. And OD2, I didn't particularly care for either. I think OD1 was the one. So, and all the people that I've ever seen use it like that too.
Yeah.
Or very similar to that.
I'm going to have to see if I can pick one up at some point. So a question for both of us here, Dave.
Oh God.
When do you know a design is finished? Yeah, this is the.
I don't know. I don't know if it ever is.
Well, I think this is what Danny's saying as well, right? Constantly make circuit tweaks. So yeah, I don't know. Like, and I mean, I think Dave would be the same. You make a lot of relationships when you get into this and other builders. And I think everyone to some degree is always tweaking. But maybe, you do kind of move on to new things, right? Eventually you've got to just leave the thing and move on.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, you sort of get to a point where you start making changes and then you realize that it was fine to begin with. Or you've released the amp, it's been out for a while, and you're getting feedback from the customers. And when you get feedback from the customers, it really tells you if it's good or not, really. It's and it can help you fine tune it in the end, over the years.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. I think you probably need the amp out for a year, maybe, before you probably get enough feedback like that.
Some things you just know, like if you're targeting something, like if you're targeting like the new Plexi amp that's coming.
Oh yeah,
which is up and running.
Oh, is it? Because it's
alive.
Awesome. Oh, that's cool.
It's alive.
It was pretty close. Like you showed it to me when I was there, and it was.
Oh no, it's alive.
Alive now, right? Awesome.
And then I went down the path of trying to get it to sound just like my old amp.
Yeah.
And I did.
Awesome.
So I got a couple little mistakes that have to get corrected, and one other prototype has to get made.
That's always the way.
Yeah, it's all you make the first prototype and you're like, fuck.
There's always something.
Presence knob is backwards.
I've done that. I've done everything.
You can just label it cut.
Yeah. This is it. It's like, why is the amp so dark? Yeah. Yeah. Look, I don't know. Look, I think you get into that diminishing returns thing, don't you? You're like, where you just get to the point where you're tweaking and you're not actually improving it anymore.
No.
You're just making it's just slightly different flavors of the same thing. So at that point, I think it's time to move on. And
I think I think it's really useful too to have an amp switcher where you can and have a variety of other amps that you like, and to sort of A/B it to those amps.
100%.
And see, it kind of grounds you a little bit in reality. If you went too far, or
you do
like, oh shit.
I agree. You do. Yeah. I mean, once you've been listening to your own amp for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever, you've got to go back.
Right here.
Yeah. There's a lot more stuff stacked up there than when I was there.
Oh no, I did a video with Warren Hewart, which is coming eventually out. And
is he the Produce Like a Pro guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we I just dressed up the front of the shop more.
Nice.
Moved all the vintage stuff up front here.
Oh, cool. Is that your 68 sitting up there?
68 in the middle there, a high watt that Stevie Frietta has done those videos on.
Yep.
Then the Bandmaster, brown face Bandmaster, then the Jose next on the bottom to the left of the high watt.
Yep.
And then a small box and a Dirty Shirley.
Nice.
That are sitting there. And an Omite Variac if you're going to get really. And then the two cabinets one is a black back 75 hertz 70s cabinet, and the other one is a old 70s cabinet with the original 65 watt speakers,
Right.
which sound brilliant together.
Yeah, I bet they do. So this is probably how you hurt your back, moving all that stuff out.
No, actually, I did that without really doing any kind of.
Yeah.
I like had dollies for the cabinets, so I didn't really ever lift them. I kind of teetered and put them on, and yeah, I don't know what happened with that, but
because all that stuff was in the other is in the next room.
Yeah. Well, one cabinet was in my house that I brought the other matching vintage cab. So
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Question for you, Dave. The bass tone stack, 56k slope and 250 picofarad treble.
It's not my favorite. It lacks a little mids to me, but it can't, I mean, there's some people that love a super bass amp too. If are you using a Strat with 3 single coils, maybe you're gonna like the super bass. It's probably cool for that. Are you not going all the way distorted, like really high gain?
Yep. Nice in the
you
clean.
might like the super bass. You might like that. So I guess that's dependent on the player.
It's definitely a different vibe. I had a 75 JMP in here last week, and I first plugged it in and just tried it to see what it was like before I even opened it up. And the first thing I noticed is that the treble pot particularly, it was like with the guitar I had plugged in at that point, it was like, this thing's not doing hardly anything.
Yeah.
I wondered whether the tone stack had been modified, and then when I opened it up, it had been converted to this 56k slope and a 250 picofarad.
I'm not saying that it can't be good. The old Nailer amps had that tone stack.
Oh, okay. Really?
With some other changes too, though. So it can be useful.
Yeah.
Put a switch in. You can switch between them.
Yep.
That's how you really know what it sounds like.
Good way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Scott's got a JTM 45. The normal channel is suddenly quieter than the treble.
Most likely, it's just a tube.
Yeah.
There's not much there. You only have 2 inputs, each half of the first tube, and then they come out and they go through the volume knobs into the mixer resistors.
This is right.
So there's nothing there. I mean, unless you have a funny pot. I mean, that's possible.
Which is not unheard of.
Not unheard of these days.
Unheard of. Most likely, one side of V1 is this will be the V1 tube, Scott. If you want to try, in the first position.
Yeah. Most likely, it's probably that. If it's, I mean, I don't know if it's an old JTM 45 or a newer one. If it uses alpha pots, there's a chance that the pot's bad. This is a horrible problem right now. There's issues occasionally with alpha pods that failing, and
you've had quite a few, haven't you? Quite a few.
Well, we do a large quantity of amps, so yes, we've had quite a few from all different eras. All of a sudden, they just kind of quit, and for no particular reason. Never used to be a problem years ago. And this is what you have to deal with. So then you're like, okay, so I need to switch production to a different pot. What pot do you use? Someone tell me, because basically
there's not a lot out there.
Only choice is CTS. Really? There's Bournes too, but Bournes, the pots they make for Bournes have no grease on them and they feel a little flimsy. They don't feel flimsy. They just feel loose. Pretty good quality, I think. Maybe.
And there's different. There's different types of alpha pots too. Yeah, because maybe the PCB mount pots are more reliable than the chassis mount. I'm not.
Yes,
sure.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. There's sealed alpha pots that are PC mount pots that are quite good, which in future builds I will be switching to. But in current builds, man, I might switch to CTS. I don't know. There's other issues with CTS that I don't like too. So, like for instance, a 1 meg master pot will not come on for the first, till after 2 on the knob, and then all of a sudden it comes on. It's not really smooth.
The taper on them can be a bit weird. Yeah,
it can be a bit weird. I mean, they're good. I mean, they're fine as long as they don't fail. That's the problem. This is the big problem when you're a big manufacturer and you start seeing like mass failures of parts you didn't make. You use good parts. It's supposed to be good, and they're not.
Well, this is back to the pricing question.
Yeah,
warranty.
Yeah,
right. Warranty. It's got to be paid for anyway. Your amps are a bargain, Dave. So there you go. Greg's over in New Zealand, which is my place of birth, my homeland.
There you go.
Yeah, got a Runt 20. Wants to get a small box, but none for sale. Can you buy direct from Friedman?
I'm sure that could be arranged.
Is that an email, Dave?
Email me. Yeah.
Awesome. Too easy. So what's Benny? Dave, my dad and I just went and compared a bunch of amps at pianos and stuff in Pittsburgh area. He walked away with a twin sister.
Yeah, it was originally called Pianos and Stuff, and it still might technically be, but it's generally known as N Stuff Music.
Oh yeah, well, I've watched some of their videos.
Yeah, N Stuff Music. Yeah, it originally was Pianos and Stuff, but I think they dropped the pianos. Maybe not though. I don't know.
Well,
I've been there.
The YouTube's definitely N Stuff because they demo gear on there. I've seen a bunch of your
stuff.
I
did. It's a cool store. It's a cool store. I did a clinic there, and I did a video with them. I think once when I was there. It was cool. Cool. I like Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I've never been.
Cool area. I think it's a cool area a lot.
Mm-hmm. Question here from Wendell, Dave. Anything come out of the discussion with Joe Satriani regarding an amp build potentially?
No, nothing.
It's 20 minutes to midday. Here's that 11:39. Just checking the link. So that's Saturday morning in the future.
In the future,
nothing's changed.
You time traveled.
Still the same. Yeah. Jakey Lee mod to an amp with fixed impedance output. Does the resonance mod need to go on each output? Does that change the value?
Fixed impedance outputs. You mean separate jacks for the different taps of the output transformer?
Not sure what you mean, but you can. I mean, with your negative, so the resonance mod is on for negative feedback line. So you got some decisions to make or choices you can make. You can choose what
4, 8, or 16.
4, 8, or 16. Just try it, right? Like put it on 4, try it, put it on 8, put it on 16, and you'll hear and feel the difference. And you can also change the negative feedback resistor, of course, because that will change how much negative feedback is coming through. And it'll be pretty dramatic. You can actually do a lot of tuning, I think, with those choices, right, Dave?
Yes, you can. But, the interesting thing I've noticed, or at least I think I noticed, I might not have absolutely proved this, but it seems to me that just changing the negative feedback resistor, and say you're on the 8 ohm tap.
Yeah.
And if you just change the negative feedback resistor to get the same voltage, into the PI with a resistor sounds different than keeping the resistor and changing the taps.
Totally. It's weird, isn't it?
So the way I look at it is, for me, it's just like 100K or 47K, you decide, and then decide what you like. I mean, original old Plexi Marshalls were off the speaker jack, which if you were playing into a 16 ohm cabinet would have been off the 16 ohm tap originally. But sometimes they sound good that way too, and you want to leave them that way. And then other times maybe you want them in the 4 or maybe the 8, you know.
It's definitely one of those weird things.
I sort of tend to like the 47K resistor for the feedback resistor. I don't know why. Although 100 can be cool too.
If you're Dave, if you had a variable negative feedback control, like your response pot,
yeah, that's a little bit
go
different.
as low as maybe 27 with the fixed.
Yeah, something like as low as
27K,
27, but then it's off the 4 ohm tap, so it's kind of simulate. To be honest, if I had that to do over again, I'd probably put a 3-way switch that just hits the different taps of the transformer and do away with the pot.
And that's
or I thought about doing a switch, a rotary switch that would go between the 3 taps.
Yeah.
And then also the 3 different taps with a 100K resistor. So 3 taps with 47K and 3 taps with 100K. And then you could have every conceivable feedback thing you possibly could imagine. And you could drive yourself crazy with another switch. Where do I like it?
Yeah. This is
although that you know what, I kind of dreamed that up a while back, and I've always wanted to do it, and I haven't.
It's cool. I like that idea.
I might do it.
6-way rotary.
There's
what you need to give it like a name that like will keep people guessing forever about what it does.
What it does exactly. Yeah.
Something obscure.
There's a I'm going to do some custom runs, like small runs, custom runs of things that just are kind of fun to do, and maybe that it'll be a feature on one of those,
like one-off kind of runs of like.
Well, no, like a run of 30 or something.
Yeah.
That's small for us.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's something you do Monday afternoon, get 30 amps. But
we might do some wacky colors too for fun too. They at Boutique they just did some for Tone King. I think they were doing some very different looking colors and stuff, and Todd and some of the other guys were getting really into like picking the colors. so I'm like, I told them, I go, if you guys come up with a good color scheme or something that you want to do, let's do it, and we'll sell it. We'll sell it on a Reverb or something as a total like that's one-off thing.
Or just direct.
Todd's like, I want like a green matte amp looking amp with the white panels with white writing and stuff, and I'm like, okay,
sounds pretty cool.
Sure, why not? Let's do it. One of a kind,
Question about Ed's setup. We're talking about cabinet impedance, I think. So this is, I guess there's 2 ways to interpret this question as to whether Ed used 8 ohm cabs or whether he had 16 ohm cabs but had his amp set on 8.
He had 16 ohm cabs. Good question. On what era?
Yeah, well,
not really sure. It could have been he was using 8 into a 16 ohm cabinet.
And wasn't he using a load resistor at one point?
Later, when he started using a load resistor to load down the amp, he was using 8 into a 16 ohm load. Which with a load resistor makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
When you hear that with a load resistor, it like brightens it up a lot from if it was the same impedance. It's less compressed and more bright.
Interesting. Yeah.
That would be my preferred way of doing it with a resistor.
Because this was the original. This is when he was kind of loading down the amp and then going into the H&H power amps.
Yeah, when you see those pictures of like his Bradshaw rig from the 5150 tour,
and that's just a straight up resistive load.
I was in that box. There's a little switch on the box that is 6 amps, 6 different amps, The outputs come into the box, six different amps.
Yeah.
And that switch selects the output of that box. There's a line out in the box, and it selects the output. There's six load resistors. There's 6 load resistors in the box. All the amps go to load resistors, and then the switch is just toggling between the line out between all of them.
And it's just 16 ohm.
Yep.
300 watt resistors or something like.
It's exactly what it was. 300 watt resistors bolted in a box. Bob Bradshaw made it for him.
Unreal. That is just so unreal.
Yeah.
But didn't it like,
big resistors,
Yeah. That's what I got one of
300 watt ones.
I got on my bench, right? It looks like a little heater. It's like, this thing is amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, but I mean, we've all
live without a net sound.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Right. But a resistive load can sound pretty buzzy, yeah. Like,
no, it doesn't really sound buzzy. It generally sounds compressed and darker. Although when you put 8 ohms into the 16 ohm load, it sounds a lot better. And it's particular about what power amp you're using.
Yeah. You
can make it sound pretty good, actually.
Well, there's something to do in my spare time. Try a Plexi set.
It's pretty fun. Plexi into the 16 ohm load resistor, right,
and then reamp back through. Well, not
exactly.
Reamp, yeah. And I'll plug in my new. I mean, I got a couple of SDE 3000s there, but I did get one of those pedals, Dave.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, from the Boss guys here in Australia. So it's
awesome.
Yeah, I've had a bit of a play with it. It's how cool.
Sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's wicked.
Yeah,
so good. Where are we on the chat here?
Well, you got more time now.
Yeah, this is it. I got a long list of things to do. Don't you worry.
Until you realize, wait, I got to make money doing this. So now I don't have any time anymore.
Yeah, well, it's finite. The clock is now ticking, right? I gotta put my head down and see where we can take this over the next year. Hey, Chris. So, Dave, you did a thump mod and separate JBE Master on the JJ Junior. Where on the thump knob is it stock?
About 5 or 6. 6, I think. Because normally I had a 220K no, I'm sorry. In the JJ Junior has a 330K resistor in the amp. So it might be like 6 or 7, to be honest. I'd have to measure the pot exactly, but I know 6 on a regular 1 meg pot is around 220K-ish. 7. I'm going to say 7.
Because that's an audio taper 1 meg.
Yeah.
Probably, right? And as you were saying before, like if it's an alpha pot, who knows exactly where the taper is, but it's probably somewhere around there, 6, 7.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're pretty good. I know for a fact that normally 220 is about 6 on the knob, so I'm guessing 330 is around 7.
Cool.
Just turn it up. Do you like it?
Yeah, yeah, this is it. So this must be a question about V1, V2 of the Pink Taco, early to where it is now.
Well, I mean, now it's the new ones have changed. The circuit has changed some. It's brighter. It's more aggressive. Because I always got people saying Pink Taco is great, but it's a little dark. So, which it was dark. It was designed dark. That's the way it was.
No negative feedback in the Pink Taco.
No negative feedback, no. And then when I first did the Pink Taco V2, people said it was too bright. You can't win.
No.
And so then I chilled that out just a little. So and they all shipped that. They've been shipping that way forever. So
yeah, it's been out for a little while.
So I mean the difference. I mean, really, there's a little different, slightly different voltage divider on the front end. So it's a little more gain also. And other than that, there's a bright cap on the what you know as the mixer resistors, so to speak. And the original ones didn't have that.
Is this a if someone wanted their
Of course, you got a
first
FAT and a SAT switch on it too, but
Oh, okay. And if someone wanted to bring their original one up to version 2 spec, is that a mod that they can get, Dave?
yeah, you can do it. Sure, you can do it. You got to tell me if you really want the SAT and the FAT, or if you need that, or you just want the front end changes, or
front end changes. Yeah.
Obviously, it's a lot easier to do just the front end changes. Could be done. Also, the new ones are quieter because they're DC heaters. Other than that, I mean, it's the same exact power amp, same transformer, same. It's the same stuff.
Yeah. I'm gonna re-ask my question that I asked you on the last live stream, Dave. Now that you mentioned DC heaters, and we talked about this when I was there as well. Your how did it go with the Plexi, the new one?
Went great.
When you reduce the voltage on the DC heaters, the Variac style thing,
it worked really well.
Awesome.
So, I don't know how it scales. You know, so there's these resistors that are just dropping, you know, the voltage. And when I measured it with the stock ones, it was a little too low. Even in full power, the 12 volt was a little too low. So at first I'm like, well, maybe we'll half the values of those two resistors in the filter chain, and we'll get it up higher. So then it went up to a little too high. Then it went to 12.9. It's supposed to be 12.6. I think I'm pretty sure 12.6 is technically what it's supposed to be. Then it went a little too high, so it went to 12.9. And I listened to that, and I'm like, huh. And then I only swapped one resistor out, and then I got it where it was like basically 12 in the high mode, or maybe a little shy, 11.95 or something. And then it would drop, I think, 2 volts with the Variac. So it would drop a little more than an AC heater would drop.
So this is dropping just because the input into the regulator is coming down, or
everything. The whole transformer is coming down. Every voltage in the transformer.
Yeah. For anyone that wonders what we're talking about, it's the
we're like right over their heads.
I just went straight down there. But Dave and I talked about this when I was there, and we chatted about it on this last time we did this, which is that with Ed's, the Variac on a Plexi setup, when you change the input voltage to the whole amp, everything will come down, including the heater voltage. And of course, the heater voltage is what is making your tubes light up, glow, heat up. So, and it's part of the sound, right? Reducing the heater voltage is part of that tone. So we were curious as to if you're using DC heaters, which is more kind of on more modern amps, you use DC for low noise, whether dropping the DC would actually have the same kind of tone.
Well, it does. It does have the same effect, because I A/B this to my vintage Plexi, and that it sounded the same. But when I played with that voltage, that slight difference in voltage, boy, there was a huge change in tone. Like the one that was a little higher, it sounded harsher. That was not as good. And
just changing the heater voltage.
Yeah, it was not as good. And it wasn't like drastically higher, it's just a little bit, and I'm like, huh, interesting.
The
effects of voltage and things.
Yeah, well, it's definitely something to check, right? One of the I mean, that's 75.
I set it a little lower, so when it goes to Australia, it's gonna with the Australian voltage, which I've never been able to determine what that is exactly.
Or 240, give or take. Normally, I mean, it is like it's meant to be.
Sometimes-
It's meant to be
Sometimes
230
more.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's
never
never 230 there. I mean, come on. I've talked to people as the 246.
There was actually a
248.
There was some sort of specification change where we were meant to line up with the EU, but it never happened. Like it's still 240 at least. And
yeah,
I worked in a JMP last week, Dave, and it was hardwired at 220 on the 220 tap. Yeah. So this thing had been running for God knows how long with 240 mains, but the primary set at 220. So I measured the heater voltage. It was about 7.4 AC, 7.5 AC, something like that.
Yeah, we ship all the amps to Europe, all of them, unless it's a 220 specific country, which is some Asian countries and things. At 240. Because I have found over time that what they say, even 230 in a lot of countries is a little iffy. It's 230, 236, 235, 238, and I would rather have the transformer tap set higher
totally
than the voltage than the opposite happening. Because you're stressing parts and amps and stressing things if it's set for 230 and you're really getting 236 in there, 238. So it sounds better too. So it could potentially in some countries be 10 volts, like you had the Variac 10 volts lower, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's like the equivalent of dropping here from 120 to 110. And it's okay. It'll still sound good.
Absolutely.
In fact, it'll probably sound better.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely better than the other way around. Do you know much about the Splawn quick rod, Dave?
I mean, I've seen some of the schematics. I've worked on some of them over time, but for a more modern tone.
Is that a
It's not really. I don't think.
Is it a plate fed tone stack?
I think it is. I don't think it's a cathode follower in there.
Yeah.
So it's got some weird stuff going on. No, I don't have any.
No, me neither. Something to
buy a pedal. Buy a Buxom boost and put it into the front end of it. Tighten it up and boost it.
Yep. Let's move on here. I'm not sure what this question means, Zach. How frequently? I thought when I first read that, I thought about what frequency. How frequently should I play my amp to keep the filter caps healthy?
Well, I mean, are you not using it for years? I mean, I think it'll be healthy if you even were to play it once a week, or I think you'll be fine.
Exactly.
Especially if it's a newer amp, it's fine.
Yeah, and you just need to have it like out of standby and on for the filter caps to be kind of up at voltage.
I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, but I think that's the story where someone has found an old Marshall that's been hidden in a shed for 30 years or something. In a modern amp, you wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, the only filter caps I've ever seen blow up was in two different JTM 45s, and it was the same cap that blew up. It was the side mounted internal one, so it shot all its goop and feathers, so to speak, or not feathers.
Yeah, they look like, I know what you mean. Though it looks like
all over the entire circuit board and the inside of the amp. And you can't get it clean. You cannot get it all off. It's impossible. You can get most of it off and it'll function and it'll work, but it'll never be as pretty as it once was. I know, because I scrubbed one for like days trying to get it. Ugh, no.
That's yeah. I haven't had that happen to me, thank God. Speaker question. David, H3055 from the mid-70s.
Those are cool. All the H30s, the 75 hertz and the 55 hertz were super cool speakers. I've had cabinets over the years with them. They're awesome. They're, I mean, just a little different sounding, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's scoop sounding though. Nah, maybe it's been a while. It's been a while. Sorry.
Wonder what you're playing. Like, what amp
Yeah,
is it with? Hey,
worth a lot of money if it's original cab.
These guys, yeah.
Yeah, if it's original cab, that's
1975.
worth a bunch of money. That's supposedly the Hendrix speaker.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That's interesting.
In my cab pack with 2 notes, we have that
one
speaker in one of them. I don't think it sounds like Hendrix, but I think it's a cool sounding cab.
That's cool. Scotty, you just completed your post-phase inverter master. That's good to hear, mate.
The good
Brad,
one?
I think just the traditional Lamar.
Okay.
Yeah. Brad's up in Sydney. Hey, man. This would be in reference to the discussion
Pots.
before about the pots. Yeah. Do you know that model?
I mean,
that was what you said about the grease.
Yeah, it's the grease. I mean, basically, one doesn't have any grease, and one probably has grease. Yeah, I know. It's just a question of getting them, making them. How many years it takes to make them for us? It's a whole process. And we contacted both CTS and Borns. Todd contacted both of the companies multiple times with no response. Gotta love that.
Don't know.
Guess you don't want to do business.
He said he had that conversation when you took me to the factory that morning. He came up and that was the conversation. He said, "Oh, I've sent this out to Borns and like crickets,
nothing.
You know,
Crickets.
Yeah.
It's sometimes not easy sourcing things and getting them done, especially on the scale that you have to get them done at. It's easy to go to CE Distribution and buy some pots.
Yep.
But when you're buying them for 1,000 amps, that's a different thing. You're not going to get it from CE Distribution at that point. And then it's like, well, it's 30 weeks. 30 weeks. You're like doing the math, and you're like, okay, that's like a year.
You might as well.
Fuck.
Sourcing parts, it's never ending bloody nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey Lee, how you doing? Hey Dave, Jerry Cantrell, has Jerry ever asked you to replica of the legendary Snorkler 800 used on the early Allison Chain stuff?
No, because I don't really think he knows what it is. Like at all. Or remembers. I really don't think. Yeah. No. I do have the circuit written down. Or at least what I think was the circuit written down. There was an amp George Lynch brought me that was supposedly a Snorkler mod that Bogner had done. And I did write down the whole circuit. Because he sold that amp and then had me duplicate it for him. So I do have that written down in a notebook somewhere.
Oh, that'd be interesting to.
Yeah, I could share it with you, Jason.
Unearth one day. Yeah, I'd love
it's kind of it's. I'll tell you this much. It's a fuck ton of gain.
Yeah,
it's a lot of gain. It's almost, in a lot of respects, unusable in some settings. But like 3 to 5 to 6 maybe on the gain is usable.
Is there an extra preamp tube drilled in? Couple of extra. Well,
there's no cathode follower. It's plate driven.
Okay.
So it's just like a gain machine.
Yeah, just 4 stages.
Pretty cool sounding.
Yeah.
To be honest, sounds cool.
Awesome. I'll have to check it out.
Super heavy though.
Yeah, I bet. Here's a good question. Good old treble channel of a super lead Plexi, 820 or the 2K7. Great question. I like this one. Yeah, one of each.
You know, I guess it kind of depends on the amp. Both can be cool. Eddie's was 820.
I was going to say.
But it doesn't work with every amp. I played with that a little bit. Sometimes 2.7 just sounds better. I don't prefer either. I like both, but it's amp dependent.
Do you think there's a difference between 50 and 100? Like 100 watt or 50 watt?
Oh, amps?
Yeah, like
sure.
whether you choose an 820 or a 2K7.
Yeah, it could be. The amps sound different. The power sections sound very different. Generally, I go for the 2.7 because I think it's a little tighter and a little sort of more percussive, kind of. But I could go for either.
Good to have. That's why you have. That's why you have two Plexis, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Everyone's got to have two.
I mean, but it's a recipe. It's a whole recipe for the whole amp. So like Ed's original Plexi was around 460 plates on the plates, on 460 volts, 460 something on the plates. So all Plexis of that era were that voltage.
Yep.
Around that voltage. 460 to 470. Obviously, transformers vary a little bit from one to the other.
Yep.
There's a tolerance. Even in new transformers, you'll get this amp's 475. This amp's 483. Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Part of the sound of that amp, I think, is that voltage. Part of the compression and the gain of that amp has to do with that play voltage. And
what it is when it's set down.
It's more compressed. It's got more gushy gain to it, so to speak, more compression. And I'm positive it has to do with that, because every single one I do that's that old and has that, as soon as you play it, you're like, oh yeah, it's got that thing. It's just a little juicier feeling, so to speak. Yeah.
I remember there was a Tone Talk episode, Dave, where you had your little original piece of paper.
Oh, I still have it in the other room.
You written all the voltages of that amp.
Yeah.
The number one, and you
held take a screenshot of it, Jason?
Bloody oath, I did.
Did you get all the voltages?
Yeah. In fact,
it's all arbitrary a little bit, because I've duplicated that amp before with amps, and it varies a little bit depending on how much current the tube draws, how much current the preamp tube is drawing, specific preamp tube you're using. That those voltages will vary, but give or take 10%.
There's a couple of reference points, like the thing that I grabbed off
reference points, phase inverter reference point,
phase inverter voltage.
That's where it is.
And at both, because you had two voltages written down there for the phase inverter, one at 120 mains and one at 90.
Yeah, with two different biases too set too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also had the
that was scribbling part. That thing's a mess, because I just scribbled it on a piece of paper as I'm doing it in the amp.
Fair enough.
And I never made it nice or anything. It only makes sense to me, maybe.
I think it's been immortalized on the internet now, that screenshot, because someone else took a screen grab and put it on Slow Clone forums as well.
Oh, did they?
Know that, yeah. It's like, hey,
oh God,
it's immortalized forever.
Oh God,
yeah, it's all good.
I miss
that. This we're talking about the pots, the beginning taper on the CTS pot anyway, supposedly there to accommodate using the same.
Well, that's not an excuse. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's an amp. It's fine.
All good. Hey, Brad. I'm glad Dave's new Plexi is still a ways away because I just gave all my money to Jason. Yeah, nice one, Brad.
Oh,
you did
yeah.
too. Appreciate
it's a ways away. It won't be too far away, but yeah.
Yeah. You'd be just in time.
Like I said, it's alive.
Yeah, that's so
and
cool.
It's fine. It's good. We just there was a mistake or two and had to fix a couple things on the chassis and fix a couple things on the PCB. It's not, I can tell you this though, it is not a hand wired amp. So, but Jason saw it. It's a highly thought out work of art as far as the PC board goes. You know, it is designed to have no, I don't even know how I want to say it. I mean, it's designed to sound as good as it can possibly sound. And I'm A-being it to the original amp. So, you know, that's the key, you know.
The one that's right there.
And it'll be more reliable, better. There'll be less mistakes. It'll have pots that actually work, which is a problem.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's going to be a good thing. And I think it'll come in at a slightly more reasonable price. So
yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know what that is yet exactly, but I think it'll be less than slightly less than a hand wired.
Do you think that's because of the build time will be a little bit lower? Is that what you?
The build times will be a little lower. It'll be quicker to build. Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's not. It's. You know, I've said this before about hand wired amps. So hypothetically, let's say it takes someone 10 hours to build a hand wired amp. Let's just say it takes them 10 hours to build a hand wired amp. I don't know what amp, but let's say it's 10 hours. So if you did an all PC board amp, it might take them 2 hours to build. So now what is that really different? All the parts are exactly the same. So you're talking 8 hours of labor. 8 hours of labor is roughly, I don't know. Let's say he makes $20 an hour. That's $160 difference. There's no other cost savings whatsoever.
Yeah. The cost of all the parts are the same.
It's all the same because it's all the same parts. It's 1 watt carbon film resistors, all Synergy mustard caps, all the Vishay picofarad caps. It's Vishay metal film dropping resistors, 10-turn bias pots or 20-turn bias pots, whatever they are.
25, I think.
25-turn bias pots, which I love.
Yeah, they're super cool.
That, you know, because the bias never drifts anywhere. You can't blow on it and it'll change, you know, like some pots.
100%.
So, transformers are all the same, you know, jacks are all the same, everything, switches are the same.
Yeah.
So really, you know, like someone's argument about a hand wired amp versus, well, hand wires amp a lot more labor. Well, I just told you what the labor was, so that's the difference. So how much money are you really saving?
Yeah. And they're all still hand built. You know, this is the thing.
They're all hand built. Yeah, they're all still
built,
hand assembled.
Doesn't matter how many PCBs you've got in the amp; it's still put together by hand.
But the beautiful thing about an all PCB amp done properly, I'm not saying a shitty one, done properly, is there's a consistency that does not exist in a hand wired amp.
They all sound the same.
And there's no mistakes made in hand soldering every connection. There's no mistakes. They always sound the same.
Completely consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that's huge.
Yeah. No, I'm all in on it. It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got the Plexi up and running, Dave. What about the Vox? Is the other one that you're?
Hey, Lyle Caldwell is here.
Oh, hey, Lyle.
Hey, Lyle, what's happening, man?
I'm maybe way behind in the chat, probably. Try and catch up. Any news on the Vox amp, Dave?
That's next.
Yeah.
I mean, I have it partially done. I'm
getting the Plexi out first.
I'm getting it. Well, no, I mean, maybe both will come at the same time, or maybe they'll come at slightly different times. But I'm the prototypes on my shelf here, getting the parts screwed into it.
Here's an interesting question, Dave. I'm not sure whether you've been asked this one before, but moving an amp around different parts of the world, changing the primary on the power transformer, do you think there's any difference?
That's a very good question. I mean, I wouldn't. Depends on the hertz.
This is it. It's also frequency as well.
It's the frequency. You know, when I've been in Europe with my amps, they don't necessarily sound better or different to me. So I haven't proven this, you know. I wish I had a converter that would change the hertz too, you know.
It's pretty hard to put it on an amp switcher, isn't it, and do this test?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, well, no, but there is like you can use a Kikusui voltage converter where you can change the hertz.
Change the hertz as well.
Yeah, you can change everything, voltage and hertz.
Insane.
And but it's also like $5,000. I
was going to say.
So that's not going to happen.
No. Yeah, I won't be doing a video on that anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Chris. How you doing? Chris is a local guy. Thank you. Australian dollars. Hey, man. Chris owns the... he's got some beautiful vintage gear. You know, that block in 45, Dave, that I was talking to you about, that very similar to one that George Metropolis had. Chris has got a question here.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with this. Aussie Arson from Three Monkeys Solderless does deep dives into VH1 tones. I have to check that out. I don't know, Dave. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I've seen all his videos. I'm sorry, someone texted me something. I've seen all his videos, and I've never met him, but he seems like a cool guy. As far as his solderless stuff goes, I mean, it's solderless. I mean, he makes solderless power cables. That's kind of neat. I don't really trust anything that's solderless. If you're an expert at making them and really good at it, you might get really good results. But if you're not, you might not. and then let's say you have a whole pedal board full of solderless cables and there's a problem. So what's the bad cable? Where is it? Could be any of them. Yikes.
Yeah, anything that's solderless, just I don't know.
I mean, it can be good. I mean, it you know, some are better than others. The ones that Evidence cables do, that Dan from the Pedal Show does, you know, from his switcher company, Gig Rig. That does. I mean, those are probably the most reliable ones. I still solder everything when I'm making rigs for people. Sorry. I just use square plug ends and soldered, you know, Mogami cable, and away you go.
Away you go. This is it.
But I understand the point. If you're just a guy that can't do that, I mean, it might be a good option, but pay close attention to how you make them.
Well, for some people, they'll probably get better results than if they soldered, perhaps.
Absolutely true.
No?
Absolutely true. I
But
mean,
it's a good
we
thing to
don't.
practice. I mean,
We,
anyone can,
yeah.
if you want to start, tinkering with electronics and stuff, then start making your own cables. It's a good place to start. Here's a couple of real-time voltage readings around the world. Australia, 242.8 right now.
See? There you go.
Okay. And Chris, I know, hey, Chris is in the UK, obviously. Same as you.
Yeah, 240, see?
There you go.
It's supposed to be 230.
This is it. Adam's got a question here. Where in the amp does a drop in? Not too sure what that means. Maybe just a drop in voltage have the most effect. If you could drop heaters on a preamp tube and power tubes independent. Oh, I see. Okay.
Well,
talking about heater voltage, like, is it?
Yeah.
Does the whole amp? Yeah, you know what I mean.
Well, EVH amps drop the heater voltage. They brown it out a little bit in
all the way.
Amps. Yeah, the DC heater voltages
are
browned out. I think I have to double check that, but I think it's just the DC because even when we had no,
he talked. I can't remember.
He talked about it.
He only talked about it.
That's part of the sound. And you know what? After experimenting on the bench with some stuff, I kind of agree. Whenever I have said a Variac and an amp plays a huge role, it not only the high voltage dropping, but the heaters dropping is part of that sound. Now, there's some questions whether or not the heaters, you're stripping the cathodes of the preamp tubes or this or that. In experience, I don't really think it's been a problem ever.
And it's worth it. Even if it does, it's worth it.
Oh, Fried did a video on DC heaters and Variac.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
I've never seen that. But
something to look up.
There's a show coming, although it hasn't been announced. Maybe I shouldn't say anything. But maybe I will. There's a Fryette show coming, the Malcontents, that Pete Thorne and I are going to be on the show live. And all four of us are going to be drinking.
I was going to say, is this not the one where every time there was a super chat or something you had to drink? Is it going to be that one?
We might implement that rule. Yeah, we were talking about that, weren't we?
You were. Maybe that'll be the time to do it, right? And it's like,
that's a bad idea.
You got to do it like, I don't know, every $5 or every $10 or something.
That's about a bad idea. Yeah, it has to be a certain dollar amount.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't send a penny.
But if someone puts $100 in, then it's got to be like, it can't just be one drink,
Yeah. We could set some limits.
You got to have a sliding scale.
Yeah, sliding scale. Yeah, a certain amount of money gets a certain number of drinks, and should be interesting. But basically, it'll be a show talking about I don't know what, which is normal for that show.
Yeah. So this is here's the second comment on the Stevie Fryette video. Yeah, well, if you've got a regulator in the way, the regulator's going to try and put out 12 volts on the output, regardless of what you put into it. But if you put in less than 12 volts, then the regulator won't be able to put out 12. Obviously, it's going to drop. Anyway.
Yeah, correct. If there's a regulator in there and the voltage is already high enough in front of the regulator, when you drop the voltage, it will actually not do anything at all. But eventually, if you drop it low enough, the regulator will go out of regulation and it'll probably hum.
Well, it won't probably. It will. All right. So, Rob, hey, Hey Rob. We've got to look at this video because it's obviously a few of these guys have seen it. You'll start to get audible noise, definitely, right? Because you'll start to get, it won't be DC anymore. It'll have a ripple on it, and then as soon as you've got that, it's going to hum badly. Any thoughts on a 20-watt twin sister? There you go. To the 2-channel twin sister.
The dirty little sister.
There you go. Man, you got a name already to go.
I'm telling you right this minute. No. Might there be something in the... There is some plans for some cool stuff in the future. And might something like that come into being? I don't think it'll be 20 watts, though. I think it might be a little bit more. Might there be something in the future that's kind of technologically advanced that might be very cool? Yeah, maybe.
An amplifier?
It would be an amplifier. Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
It would be a powered amplifier. What am I drinking? It's gone. Belvini Scotch that someone gave me a while back, and I nursed it for many shows, actually. But I polished it off tonight.
Nice job.
And I've had no food, so it's probably not good.
Yeah. Do you Long Schlong Silvers? Hey, I know you've been on Tone Talk before. I recognize that name. Any insights to what make Cameron modded Marshall so unique? Well,
what's unique about it?
You can't get them anymore. It's probably the only.
Yeah, that's what's unique about it.
Yeah, no one knows where he is.
It's a modified version of a pre-tone stack Master Jose.
Yeah.
And slightly modified version. Not greatly.
If you go back and watch the Pete Thorne video with Steve Vai's modded Jose, it's a great video that Pete did. He's got the push-pull master, right, Dave? And you talk about in that video. I can't remember whether it's the master pulled or pushed, but
pulled is the pre-tone stack.
Pre-tone stack, right? Pre-tone stack with the Xena diodes in. That's smart Cameron all day long. Yeah. It's a few slight
changes of stuff, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shocked and persuaded. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. Lucky enough to score a 68 basket weave, all original, apart from Recone. Who would you suggest to send these for a proper Recone? Dave, that's a question for you.
Oh, man, I don't have anyone. I don't know of anyone. There used to be a good place out here called Orange County Speaker Repair, but they're long gone. They're not in business anymore. So that is a very good question. I want to contact Jim. It's Jim Seval at Scumbag Speakers. He might have an answer for you, or maybe be willing to even do them. I don't know.
Yep.
Have to ask him.
Good question. That's a good place to go.
Yeah.
Thanks for the super chat. Modern Vintage. So the new Fortin Meshuggah amp, Dave, the black one, made in the USA. Do you know what? I'll actually. Can you say? You probably do know. Can you say who's making them?
I can tell you it's not bad. I can tell you that much.
Anything else? No, it's cool.
I can't say any more, but I can tell you that much.
Yep.
But I do know who it is, so go from there.
Yeah. Well, this is all right. I mean, it's a relatively short list of manufacturers, right? So you can cross them off the list. It's not BAD, so there you go.
Yeah.
Why is it that tone controls on a lot of amp make very little difference? You're probably talking more about vintage, like Plexi style amps, yeah, because you're right, they're way less responsive than a more modern amp.
It's about the amount of signal level that is being pushed through the EQ. The more signal level pushed through the EQ, the more active the EQ becomes.
This is it. So in a more modern amp, you'll have more gain stages. Yeah. More modern amp, more gain stages normally, which means more signal. Therefore, your passive tone controls have more.
Yeah, the EQs are exactly the same. I mean, in Jason's amp, my amp, in Bogner amp, it's all the same.
Totally.
Yeah, there's no magic EQ.
Yeah, they're not active, like in that sort of, let's call, Marshall style or even the Fender style amps. They're not. No one's doing active EQs. They just get pushing more signal through, will make them more responsive. I think we answered that question before, which is we kind of.
Yeah, I think was it same from Modern Vintage before. I think
so. Maybe you'd put.
Or maybe not. I mean, no. The answer is no.
Yeah,
not really.
No one's definitively proved it, but we don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brad wants an Alta for his showroom. Yeah, I'm working on it, man. I can't build them fast enough at the moment.
Bummer.
But from now, maybe I will be building faster. So that's all right. Rob's got a view on this. Yeah, I'm not too sure what 8 to 9% variance in the voltages. Yeah, so it will have a lot of impact once that gets converted. Net effect is enough to be audible. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. Now that I'm rereading that, yeah, I totally agree with that. Of course. I didn't read it right the first time.
You're saying that the variance at the wall voltage.
I mean, it's the variance in the wall voltage. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, 120 to 115 totally sounds different. 240 to 220 is even more so. It's 20 volt drop. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've seen the voltage change by, 8 to 10 volts just in the space of 15 minutes at the wall.
Oh, sure.
It's just like something will happen, like, I don't know, someone down the street's using something, or, something happens in the house and all of a sudden it changes.
Yeah.
Sean's got a post-phase inverter master on a 6859 build. The more I turn it up, the more the high string notes are piercing. How do I fix that? So this is probably the negative feedback, Dave. Do you think collapsing when you?
Well, that's kind of interesting. Generally speaking, when you turn those down, it gets brighter because the negative feedback loop is sort of out of the equation.
Out of the equation, yeah.
So, although on the post-phase inverter master, I have seen like down low, it sounds kind of cool, but in the middle, it doesn't quite sound cool. And then when you get it up around where it's really pushing the power section, then the mid-range sort of comes in again, so could just be that scenario.
And it probably depends where you got your presence pot as well, because that, in terms of your kind of EQ, if you like, right, that's the only thing on the front that's.
Well, at some point it doesn't work. It doesn't even work anymore, generally when it's down lower.
This is it. So I just wonder whether that's. Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to add, if you're going to use like that kind of thing, to add like a cut control into the amp with that. So then you can sort of dial back the top end or tailor it a little bit.
It's just like have a
Vox cut control.
Yeah. Something to adjust it at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. there's Lyle. You already picked up that Lyle was here.
Yes,
Dave.
I did.
Far behind I am in this bloody chat. Let's see here what else is going on.
Well, I'm sure I missed all sorts of things in the chat. I haven't been really following it.
So this is Chris, right? Chris knows his stuff. Good tech. Eddie used to say that he loved playing in the UK. Thought his Marshall sounded better. It's interesting.
Hertz changes. You know, I like I said, I don't. You can't A/B it simply.
And I wondered, so
really
Dave,
know.
in his rig, and again, this probably would depend on the era, but did he have like voltage conditioners and so on in his rack, so that the gear in the rack always saw 120 regardless of where he was?
Much later. I mean, I don't think early on at all.
He would have actually changed the voltage.
Well, they would have supplied the PA company would have supplied 120 volts.
Okay.
To the band. How they went.
So the only difference potentially would be the frequency of the.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a difference. I'm sure there's some sort of difference. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to know, maybe. I have to borrow someone's Kikusui.
Do you know?
I do. The Foo Fighters have them.
Yeah. Yeah. Get Chris has probably got one. Yeah.
Yes, he does. Couple.
Yeah. Yeah. So Brian May's got one of those expensive ones. You've been talking.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they used to.
Yeah. Very good. Let's see. Where are we going here? Yeah. Lyle's on the same page, man. Solder.
Yeah, solderless. I don't know. Modelers. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Put the boot on the freaking cable before soldering it. So you mean like?
Oh yes, yeah. The
yeah.
Yeah, we've all made that mistake.
Yeah, never again. Yeah, I learned all that the hard way, like everybody. You've just done a perfect job, right? And then you realize you haven't done it. Like,
yeah, exactly. And you're just pissed.
How about this one? So Brad's in Sydney, right? Australia. As high as 258. I mean, seriously?
Jesus.
Oh my God. Hey, so Lyle gets 127 plus a lot. Gee,
yeah. There's some areas of the US that gets around 126, 127. Luckily here in Los Angeles, or at least where I am, it is literally 117 on the dot almost. 118, 117, 118. Just standard wall voltage all the time. Which is what it's supposed to be.
So Brad, you should definitely do this on your channel, right?
Super chat drinking game.
Super chat drinking game. You should definitely do it, Aussie style.
We could dial this in even further. So there would be certain bottles of liquors for certain dollar amounts, and the larger the dollar amount, the worse the liquor gets. So, like, you know $100 super chap, you see us do shots of Goldschlager. No human should ever drink that.
Is that
that's just awful. It's just
right.
It's like a liqueur almost, and it has gold leaf in it, and it's terrible.
Hey, have you tried the Caribbean rum cask Velvet?
Oh yeah, sure. Tried that. Absolutely great. All their scotches are great. So pretty much almost the only time I drink anymore is on the show.
Yeah.
It's just well, that's not necessarily true, but yeah, if we go out to dinner or something, but other than that, not so much.
I'm gonna have to try. I'm gonna have to try some of that scotch you got there, Belvin.
It's nice, very nice,
Yeah,
very nice.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I used to hate scotch years ago, and it was all George Metropolis's fault.
What?
I blame it entirely on him.
Is it because you had a bad experience with him?
No, I just
On it?
didn't care for the taste, but I think I was kind of basing that on like not great scotch, like Cutty Sark or some horrible scotch like that.
Yeah,
and here, try this one. Oh, that's not so bad. I could maybe do that. And then I got kind of a taste for it. And once I got a taste for it, I figured out which ones I liked.
Yeah. So is that how old is that Belvin that you're drinking?
This is just a 12-year. This is called a double wood and 12-year. It's not like an insanely expensive bottle or anything. It's maybe $60 to $70 US. They have some other ones that are 18-year and different things, but this is a really good, solid scotch. I mean, there's cheaper scotches that are good that you could drink if you call it your everyday drinker kind of thing, but I don't do any of that crap anymore. It's like you got to go for the good stuff, or just don't drink.
Yeah, I mean,
that's where I'm at.
That's not a daily driver, so to speak. Right?
I know I wouldn't drink this every. No, I don't drink every day, so it's like, it's
you want it to be good.
At this point in my life, I want it to be good. It's not. I'm way past the 20s in my 20 years in my life. The 20s when when anything was fine. Like whatever. Smirnoff vodka mixed with something or something. No, forget it. It's not happening anymore.
This I understand.
It's not. That's just painful at this point.
Yeah.
And dumb.
And takes a long time to recover from. Too.
Yeah, I can't do.
Yeah, it's no good.
No, if you drink straight liquor, generally speaking, good straight liquor, you won't really get a hangover. You won't. It's when you mix it with stuff, and when you.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could if you drank the whole bottle or something, but we're not going to do it. But
that's not going to happen now because
it's way cleaner. It's way cleaner if you just have clean drinks.
Totally.
You drink 12 margaritas, you're going to have a hangover.
There's no way.
Yeah,
I don't think I could make it to 12, man. That wouldn't happen.
No, but you just had a going away party, right?
Yeah. Well, I did when we got on. Like Dave goes, "How you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm still waking up, even though it was 11 a.m. here." But I just got back from. As I said right at the beginning of the stream, I just finished up at work, so there were some farewell
parties.
Yeah, and that was 12, definitely 12 drinks, but not 12 margaritas. 12 other things, maybe more than 12. I lost count. I don't know. What I do know is that when you get into your 50s, it takes 2 days to recover from these things, not one.
Not one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or 3, maybe even.
Yeah, I'm going to see how I am tomorrow. I'm sure I'll be back to normal again. Now, Doug, we both helped in emails with 68 mods to a first version in 1987X. Yeah, I can kind of remember this. Probably a month ago or something. Thank you both. I'll get the amp back next week. Did you ship it to a tech to do the changes?
V1B 2.7K, V2A.
1K.
Okay, 1K. Okay, yeah, that's close to 820 ohm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's no question here. I think it's just he's just saying thanks.
All right, cool.
Yeah, cool.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, vaguely. Try running preamp tubes. Is 5 volt AC too low for preamp tubes?
That's kind of what it becomes if you run a Variac at 90 volts. So
it'd be about 5 volts.
Is it too low? No, it'd be fine. Yeah, it'd be fine. It won't hurt anything.
No. That's what we're saying. I mean, there is that, as you're saying before, Dave, right? There's that, there's a view out there on the internet that talks about cathode stripping and all that, but
hasn't really been my firsthand experience over the years.
Yeah.
And I literally have run my 50-watt Marshall as long as I've owned it at 90 volts. And the first set of tubes finally died. They were the original Telefunken EL34s. They died somewhere around 2000, early 2000s. And then I put a set of JJ EL34s in it, and it's been in there ever since. And the preamp tubes, I don't think have ever changed. So, and they still sound healthy and great. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Here's an answer to the Recone question, or a potential answer. Speaker repair pros in Garden Grove.
I don't know about them.
Don't know. Yeah, well, there you go. Worth a shot.
Yeah, maybe that's the leftover people from Orange County speaker repair.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Sure. Hey, Scott. Yeah, this is our Tech Talk show. We get in the weeds on this one.
Get in the weeds, talk about a bunch of bullshit, and
yeah, this is it. Where are we at here?
I don't know. Where are we?
Here we go. Do you have any PCB design guys? Need a board made, but I can't get it right myself.
Well, Jason,
there's me.
There's him. He'll do it.
Yeah, I am a PCB design guy. That's how I got into this whole mess. So yeah, you can reach me. You can email me headfirst.amplification@gmail. If you want, yeah, go for it. You can email me and we can have a chat. It's all good. Just a question about voicing, I guess, Dave. Do you design any amps around a particular speaker, like a Creamback or a V30 or Alnico Blue?
No, mostly it's to be honest, mostly one cabinet.
The one with no Tolex on it?
The one with no Tolex that is immortalized in the 2 notes cab pack. That sounds great. It's a great sounding cabinet. It's got greenbacks from the 90s in it. It's an old 70s cab. It's great. I now have it set up where I also have a cab with new greenbacks and a cab with finished 30s, just so I can do a little quick A/B between things. Although those cabinets are very new still, so they need to be beaten up a little bit.
I didn't realize that you probably told me, but I forgot. So you got early 90s greenbacks in that cab.
Yes.
That's the same as I've got this Marshall here.
6402 cone greenbacks, which are early 90s reissue greenbacks.
Is that a code that's stamped on them? Or
on the cone, yeah.
I've got photos of my cab. I'm going to look it up. I might see.
Oh no!
See if you can identify them, because
early 90s greenbacks were great.
I bought that cab second hand, but I was told that they were 90s greenbacks. I mean,
do you like how it sounds?
Sounds amazing.
Oh, then great. Yeah. Go with it.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious, I guess. I'm happy to stay with them.
Jesus, someone was getting 132 volts on the wall in Toluca Lake. That's right down the street from me here. And what?
Oh, yeah.
That seems, are you sure? I've never, that seems completely fucked up.
That is insane.
That's like stuff's
off
going to start
120.
blowing up in your house.
This is why.
Are you sure? I don't know if that's accurate reading. How are you reading that? That seems just too far off.
Yeah, not sure. There is a super chat here, Dave. So I'm going to Charlie's.
Yeah.
Pop this on the thing. Going in a different direction with this question, but any interest in making an analog channel strip? There you go.
Probably not going to happen, but yes, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm into recording gear and old stuff, and I used to be into it more. I think my amp company. There was a time I was doing a bunch of mixing and stuff for people, and my amp company has kind of taken over my life. Amps and rigs have sort of taken over my life completely at this point. So I don't have any time for that anymore. Although I have a nice set of recording gear in front of me.
I was going to say, people probably don't realize, but I've sat there where Dave is right now, and in front of Dave, where his mic is actually plugged in, is a whole rack of vintage recording gear, channel strips, compressors, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we have a BAE 312 mic preamp, which I'm using as we're talking right now. We have a Maris mic preamp. We have a Allen Smart C1 bus compressor. We have a distressor. We have a old silver-faced 1176. And just an Apollo 8 here, So
yeah,
a couple of speakers. So we got a pretty nice little.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, if you got the gear, you might as well use it, right?
Well, I started using it for for these video casts, Yeah, the mics and stuff. I've got a bunch of mics too.
Got to use it.
Yeah.
Paul's got an observation here about the head shells, clean and classic. Yeah, cool. They're like my head shell's kind of based on a Marshall small box, standard size. Yeah. Any thoughts to a different style? Yeah. Look, hey Dave, I'm interested in. I'll maybe take Paul's question and run with this a little bit and ask you a question. What do you think about the those kind of lunchbox style amps that are using a metal shell? Like a. Victory does them. Kyle at KSR's got a few of these things now. They've got
maybe we'll have one eventually.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Pretty
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to go. It's lighter. It's streamlined, smaller. Smaller, technically advanced products. Might be a Friedman's future.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know this for a fact, but I wonder whether just from a manufacturing cost perspective, not having to deal with wood, cabinetry, Tilex and all that is a good
cheaper
thing. Yeah.
It's cheaper for sure. I mean, really, we're just talking the price of a head box, But a head box costs a lot to make, really,
Yeah, it's a lot of.
it's a lot of work, and the Tolex is not simple, and that's expensive, and making the wood box is expensive, and the wood shop. I'm always told the wood shop makes no money at all. In fact, we lose money with the wood shop, but you can make the stuff instantly. So, the Baltic birch is expensive, and I don't know what. Luckily, we have a huge supply of that.
You do. It's impossible to get now, isn't it? Pretty much.
I don't know. I don't know what that's like right now. So I don't know what the future holds for that.
Not easy.
So that's a whole nother problem.
It's important. The Baltic birch, as I understand, Dave, it's really important for speaker cabinetry, but
really important for speaker cabinets. It's not as important for a head cab, but we still use it for head caps.
Yeah. So there's no knots or voids in it, right? It's just
there's no knots or voids, and it's the right thickness and everything. I don't know. We'll see where that takes us with the wood.
Yeah, interesting. A few more
I don't think I
observations.
have to worry about it for like 10 years.
Yeah, you got a lot of wood.
There's a
in that
lot of
workshop,
wood.
but you're making a lot of cabinets. So I wonder how quickly it goes through. But there is a lot there, that's for sure. A few more readings here, Dave. 132 back in the 90s.
Oh, that's fucking crazy, but okay.
Yeah, rural Australia. So that's where Scotty is.
See, look, that's the
230,
proper.
that's nice.
Yeah.
Gotta
That
move
has
out
not
there
been my
for-
experience in Australia generally.
No.
Yeah, Philly suburb 127. There we go.
Pretty high.
That's high. I mean, it's 9 volts higher than it should be. Or no, 10.
There you go.
Technically, it's supposed to be 117 in the US.
I'm looking in worldwide real-time readings here. Canada at 10 past midnight.
126. Look at that. 126 does not sound good with an amp.
Too high. Detroit, that's pretty solid.
That's pretty solid. That's right in the right ballpark.
Yeah. Bitch to the owner, he needed to rewire the place. 110 on one side and 120 on the other. Holy shit. Yeah, that's not good. Just scrolling through the chat here, guys. Here we go. Known examples of recorded classic amps, i.e. that's the JCM 800 sound, that's a Soldano. Everyone talks about how these people use the classic, but then it wasn't. Any good examples there?
I mean, that's hard to say exactly because the recording techniques are so different and stuff too. Okay, Soldano, Way Cool Jr. from Rat was a Soldano. And that's a very memorable riff. JCM 800, I mean, I know for a fact everything Zakk Wylde was a JCM 800, but it also had an overdrive pedal in front of it.
Yeah.
So, in fact, most JCM 800 sounds had an overdrive pedal in front of them.
Totally.
Early Anthrax records too it was an 800 with an overdrive pedal. You know, the funny thing, we were just talking about this. I was talking about this with Warren Hewart. When the 800 first came out, you know, the funny thing is the 80s sound of the 800. It really wasn't the 80s sound. Pretty much most of those guys recording in the early 80s and stuff were using amps from the 70s. You know, they were behind. And when the 800s actually came out, I remember this specifically, the 800s were regarded as kind of a crappy amp. Wasn't as good as the 2203 that existed before it, which is exactly the same circuit, but it had slightly better transformers, a little more organic sounding, and some better mustard caps and things in them.
Yeah,
generally speaking.
Yeah.
So, you know, but when the JCM 800 came around, the transformers got a little shittier and sound got a little shittier, but it's got this cult following as the sound, but I don't know if it ever really was the sound.
I think you're right. I mean, I think that,
you know,
almost everyone used something in front of them as well. So
yeah,
absolutely. Great kind of as a back end, but there'd be something.
Oh, Zakk Wylde was an 800 with into a EV cabinet with a super overdrive in front.
Yeah.
So that's what he was, you know.
Back and still on the 800s, easiest mod for more gain. Change your 10K cathode resistor, make it smaller.
That's
Probably
the quickest and easiest.
Quickest and easiest, right? Try a 4K7, 2K7. But you
do
know,
the Jakey Lee mod that you've done. Yeah. That's pretty simple too with an 800.
Yeah, definitely along those lines.
Yeah, but you got to be careful that it's not oscillating or doing something weird, which you can get on an old 800 can happen.
Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? More voltage readings. So we're getting them all around the place tonight. 126 right now.
All right.
Um,
World voltage readings.
Are there better sounding carbon resistors? So, Dave, you mentioned right at the beginning, 1 watt carbon films, pretty standard.
Carbon films, not carbon per se.
You
I don't really care for carbon resistors that much in a Marshall-y kind of circuit.
The old carbon comps, yeah.
I don't know. Are there better? I haven't compared every single brand that's still available today. That there probably is. There's some metal film resistors that are also quite good. I haven't. This is an experiment I want to try. Actually, does it really matter?
Yeah,
That's the experiment I want to try. So there's those Vichy, what, I don't even know how to say it, Beischlag or
which one's are
certain. It's not the one Soldano uses. It's another one that
those
guy.
those are CCF 60s. Those the 5
band. Not those, but it's I forgot how to say it. I'd have to look it up.
Are they the ones that they're not? They're not.
They're blue.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones that Jeremy uses. Some stuff.
Yeah.
They're blue, and I got some of those to try for fun. I don't if I get around to it.
These are the ones.
I'd like to build some duplicate amps with alternate parts.
You could change things like that. Yeah.
Like I'd really like to do it. Like, okay, here's an amp. Build how I build it. Here's an amp with all metal film resistors and WEMA caps. Is it different? I don't know.
Or do you just like change the treble pot, like move it?
Well, that's the thing. And it's like if you put it on an amp switcher and you go, okay, well, this one sounds this way, and if I move the treble just a smidge that way and the bass a smidge that way, and then is it the same? Can I not tell anymore?
Yeah. So is it really that important?
Chances are maybe that might be true. Is it lower noise really, or is it not lower noise? Now the actual resistors I'm talking about are 1% tolerance resistors. So everything is going to be
they're all nicely in spec,
spot on.
Mm-hmm.
So will that make a difference? Well, does that really matter? So if you use 1% tolerance resistors, what about the pots? Tolerance on the pots all over the place. Tolerance on the transformers are all over the place.
It's so hard to get 2 amps.
So does it really matter then? Can you dial it in the same as the question on the amp switcher?
This is it. Question here about how to break in speakers, Dave. I think I've heard you talk about this before. So old speakers are hard to get here in Australia. Quick, best way to break in new speakers. So was it you that was talking about putting them on a Variac?
You can put them on a Variac, and I think the magic number was, don't quote me on this. I think it was like 12 volts or something.
At like 50 hertz here in Oz, right? So that what Dave means, Leo, is you get a Variac
AC voltage
plugged into the wall, 240
to your speaker.
Other side, out of the Variac, you're plugging it straight into your speaker terminals, and you're like bringing the voltage up there,
and it'll hum,
and
and the speaker will go back and forth and exercise its cone. Now that's a way that like Weber speakers used to do it for scumbag speakers.
Okay.
That's one way to do it. I used to actually take a 100-watt Marshall and turn it on 10, place the cabinet face on the ground, and let it run for hours on end. But I had a shop I could do that with.
With just something on a looper, just plain.
Yeah, a looper. I would have a guitar looper where I'd just do a riff into it and just let it go. Walk away for hours. And I listened to the cabinet at each time when I did that too. And it was remarkably different. It gets way better as you wear them in.
How long does it kind of take? Like if you ran it like you.
Well, I did like a long time ago. I did that little test where it was like I ran that signal for like a couple hours, came back and listened to it, and then I did it again for another couple hours and listened to it. I think we recorded it at the time too, and then and then another couple hours and listened to it, and it progressively got better. So
it's worth doing then. If you can't, like if you're impatient and you don't want to actually play it in over a period, then yeah, do it. The way to do it. Brad, yeah, birch all the way. That's what. Hey, Brad, I'll be interested to know where you're getting your birch from, man. You got a special supplier here in Australia? That'd be good to know. Not that I'm going to use it, but I'm just curious. I don't. Woodwork is not something that I will go near. I'll just end up cutting my fingers off. Another comment here about voltage. So Hendrix preferred running amps at 230 as well. There you go.
Okay. I mean,
who knows? Richard wants to know whether his JJ Junior is made from
yes.
birch. So that's the answer. That's yes. Yeah.
Everything is.
Where the hell are you storing that? So, Brad, I saw the thing, and I don't know, man. There's more wood than
stacks of wood everywhere.
It's just piled up to the, right up to the rafters. Stacks and stacks of it.
Yeah. It might not be 10 years. It could be 5 years, but it's a lot.
Effects loop PCB from 997X. Yeah. Look, my view, and Dave, I'm sure you'll probably say the same thing. Effects loops and plexis that are run hot, like if you run or in any configuration, actually, I think are a waste of time.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Effects loop and a plexi, no good. And the reason, of course, is because you're going to be overdriving the phase inverter tube normally, plexi, which is after your loop. So you're still, whatever you put in your loop, it's still going to be hitting a gain stage that is overdriving, so it's going to blow up and sound like reverb and delay does when you put it in front of a dirty amp.
Exactly.
It's a waste of time.
I like it when someone else can say this stuff too.
Rip it out. Just rip it out, right? And if you're running your amp clean, then you don't need an effects loop anyway. Just put your stuff on the front end.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time. Yeah, Zach used SD1. He then he had a signature overdrive with MXR. There's probably just an SD1 and a different.
Which I think it was an SD1.
Yeah. Thought so. Right, here we go. What else we got here, guys? Scrolling through, there's a lot of
yeah, I'm looking too.
Here we go. What's this one? What were some of the other overdrives besides an SD1 or a True Screamer used in front back in the day?
To be honest, I think it was an SD1, a Tube Screamer, a DOD 250, maybe, and probably also the TC distortion booster pedal. That was the Scott Ian thing. In the boost mode, not really the distortion mode.
Anyone using kind of like, treble boosters and this kind of stuff into 800s?
Not so much into the 800s, no.
Too bright, yeah?
Yeah, it's kind of bright. They're already bright.
Yeah, totally. Well, I've actually got, so I'm looking over here because it's sitting right here. It's a 1980 2203, Dave, that someone's brought in for me to look at. And their, let's call it a complaint, is that it's too bright. But I've plugged it in and turned it up, and to me it sounds killer.
Sounds great.
It just sounds like a normal.
Well, this is the problem. So it's like it's too bright, it's too dark, it's too bright, it's too dark. It goes back and forth with people. I don't know what to say. You know, it's like they'll say my amp's too dark, and then they'll say my amp's then now it's bright. Now it's too bright. Yeah. What are you comparing to?
I know, and the thing is, like this is where a little bit of understanding about not circuitry, but a little bit of understanding about how stuff works, I think, is useful. Because when I had the conversation with the guy that dropped it over, I said, where do you set the preamp gain? Was my first question.
Oh,
right.
And what do you say?
About 4. I was like, yeah, no.
Oh yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah,
got to be like 7.
7. This is it, right? And if you want a clean amp, you've bought the wrong amp, or you can plug into the low input, I guess. But whatever.
So the smart move for that amp would be to give them a 3-way bright cap switch that is off, or 100, or the 001, or even nothing. The 001 and a 4700 actually is kind of cool, and an 800 actually.
That'd be nice and tight.
We should get a 4-way switch, and then you could have all of
them. We need that 6-way rotary switch that you were talking about before.
Yeah, exactly. Have them all.
Yeah, I will ask him what he wants to do. I don't like.
Actually, the 4700 actually sounds better than 800.
That would be cool
because it goes further into the mid range. It's so the 001 is kind of like it's okay, but it kind of is not much into the mid range, and the 4700 is a little more full range into the mid range, so it gives a little more growl in the mids. And on an 800, I think that's really good, because I find I always want to turn the bass down and push the mids up.
Yeah.
Kind of
4700's magic. I reckon that's awesome, because it's less bright. It's bizarrely, because it's just what you
bizarrely
said.
Yes, yeah. Well, it just fills out the mid-range frequencies a little more.
So much better.
And that works really well in 800. It's actually kind of a neat trick.
Yeah. Someone's clean. You're the one with the accent, dude, not me. It's all based on your perspective, isn't it? Analog delay in the loop or the front?
Front.
Yeah.
Period. Front. It needs to be in front, because that's where it always was, and that's where it's meant to be. When you hear those old Rush songs, you hear the analog delay distinctly in front of the amp.
You can hear it. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
And if that's the sort of sound you're going for, that's needs to be in front.
You think you go and put on 2112 Rush, and you listen to that.
Yeah,
that delay, right? Yeah.
I don't know why I always think of that particular band with that particular thing when I think of analog delay. Yeah.
Totally. I think we actually addressed this question earlier on. Dave talked about it. So
I did that already.
Slightly changed voltage divider early on, giving a bit more gain, and
bright cap
on the mixer resistor.
Other than that, well, there's a fat switch and a saturation switch, but when they're off, they're the same.
Has Dave played the Alta 100? Yes, he has.
I did. It sounds great.
Dave pulled it apart on the bench, and we spent an afternoon at the shop there. I had one.
Didn't I find something wrong with it? I don't remember. Did I?
No, what was it?
I don't remember.
Yeah. It was like some particular setting.
Some like little noise or something.
Faintest little noise or something, yeah. But I remember that. I was like, oh yeah. Because you had your metal ruler. That's right. I remember.
Oh yeah, no, the bleed. There was a tiny bit of bleed somewhere in the effects loop kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's tiny. Don't worry about it, guys. It's not really that important. But we were nitpicking on things.
Yeah.
That's okay. There's a few amps that I have that exist too.
Yeah.
So.
Did Ed jump channels on his Plexi?
No.
No.
Treble, everything on 10, normal channel at 0, and that was it.
There's a follow-up question about that break-in speaker on the Variac, formula for a safe voltage that won't mount the voice coil. Oh, there is a formula. Yeah, here we go. 9 volts for 4 hours, then cool down for 30 minutes and repeat. There you go.
Okay. 9 volts. Sorry. Oh, V30. V30 is 12 volts.
V30 is at 12 volts. 25 watt greenbacks at 9, so a bit safer. Yeah. Okay. Rinse and repeat.
It makes a hellacious noise.
Yeah, you wouldn't be doing that at home. I wouldn't have thought.
Well, if you want to drive your wife out of the house, maybe.
I won't be doing that. Yeah. 1959 hand wired. Yeah, so vintage super lead, depends what era, but they are different than the 59 super lead reissue. Different power transformer anyway. I know that much.
Yeah, the power transformer that for the hand wire notoriously blew up.
Oh, really?
For a while, they had problems with them blowing up. I don't know what they did wrong there, but they probably corrected it at this point. But I mean, how does it compare tonally? It's a little harsher. I mean, it's made really well. It's beautiful inside. It has good components. It's a little harsher sounding, and that has to do with the output transformer. There's a little trick you can do that'll just kind of warm up the output transformer a little bit.
Oh yeah,
or the sound of it.
Yep.
You already know what the trick is, but
yeah, I think I know what you'd mean. Is it 470 something or other?
Yeah, on the cathode of the
yeah. Is it the same?
It just browns out the edges a little bit.
Do you know if the output transformer, so with just their standard super lead reissue and the hand wired, same OT, right? Different power transformer, but same OT.
Yeah.
I thought that.
I'm not really sure why it's a different power transformer.
Me neither. And it's like it's lay down, and I think it's slightly higher voltage.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Because the other one is slightly low on the voltage.
450, 460 or something, whereas the hand wired, I think
440, 440, 430 even. Yeah.
Hand wired was more 470 plus, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I think. This was a question about in the 1987X about ripping the effects loop out and putting a post-phase inverter.
Yeah, you could probably do that as long as you use shielded wire over, back and forth. You'd probably be okay. I've seen people put those damn master volumes in the input jacks, and I'm always like, oh my God, no.
I don't like the look of it.
Well, not only the look of it,
you're routing right up to the input.
Jesus, that's a bad idea. It's going to oscillate.
Yeah. You're routing right up to the input. In terms of mods, there was a question earlier on about that. But yeah, you can email me and I'll give you some ideas if you like. No sweat. Okay. A 0.0022 on V1B. So we're talking about the treble channel of a Plexi here, I'm assuming. Yeah. Why does it sound congested with an OD pedal versus 0.002?
OD pedal on a preamp bass Marshall versus O1B. Well, they're preamp bass Marshall. I don't know what that might be exactly. I mean, what circuit are you talking about? Yeah, I mean, a Plexi is a Plexi. It's different.
I think I wonder whether the first part of this question is referring to a multi-gain stage preamp that's trying to sound
what circuit is that?
Yeah, well, right. Yeah.
Is that one of mine or something? I mean, obviously, like the OD pedal into a Plexi, there's less gain. There's less compression building up in the circuit. So it's going to sound. You know, the funny thing is a Plexi, like a cranked Plexi into an attenuator, I don't find ever sounds good with an overdrive pedal. It's just like nothing sounds good into it. Maybe a tube screamer really lightly on or something, but you know, yeah. So I don't know.
Does it would depend on that, on what that, the preamp is that you're referring to. But
Right.
All right, we're getting through these. Yeah, so I've watched a couple of interviews with Wolfgang saying that he used, well, maybe for some, not all their new album, I think, but at least one solo he talked about.
Yeah, he used it with the Variac. It has to be used with the Variac because it's set up that way.
He used the Frankenstrat as well, didn't he, for this?
Yes,
I think. Mm-hmm. Pretty amazing. Dave, because you worked on the you were part of the team working on the new SDE 3000 delay.
Yeah.
And you did, I think I've heard you talk about this, you did the AB switching across with Ed's SDE 3000s.
Yeah.
Was that up at the studio 5150?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yes, that was up at the studio, and I used the switcher to switch out in real time between the 3000s in Ed's rig versus the pedal in Ed's rig. And sounds the same. Maybe the new pedal has ever so slightly more low end than the old dilapidated delays that were in Ed's rigs, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe slight tiny bit, but the sound virtually the same. You know.
Now it's the I was trying to find an answer to this, and I think I came across it on the gear page, but I thought I'd just ask you directly. But the direct out, like the EVH version of that new SDE 3000 pedal, there's obviously there's a direct out for wet dry wet. Is that analog true bypass on that? Do you know?
If you use, there is analog dry path.
Is that like a setting
if
that
you use it? Yes, internally you can change it. And if you use it, I don't believe you can use it in the 3 cable method. If you use it as like a stereo delay, like in and out, you can use that analog dry path. Although they did say like using the DSP bypass, they modeled the dry path also to sound like the originals. I don't know. We played with both. We tested everything with Ed's rig. When we tested it to his rig, we set the pedal to be analog dry path.
Okay.
And so 2 discrete delays, because there's a mode in there that you can do 2 discrete delays.
Yeah.
And we set it analog dry path, and we just, we used it like literally like 2 SDE 3000s when we were A-Bing it, and it was the same. There's lots of ways you can use that pedal. It can be actually complicated and maybe confusing, even to me still.
This pedal's got a learning curve.
There's definitely a learning curve on it, and
it's a serious.
It's probably more complicated than it needed to be, but that's what it became, and it does a lot of stuff, and it does it well.
It's pretty.
It sounds great.
Yeah, it's almost at the level where it needs an editor on your computer, like not quite, but I was like, oh man, if this was all laid out on an editor, it would be nice. Maybe one will come. We'll see.
It doesn't sound particularly good though.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
I just dialed up the. I was just running it with a stereo rig to begin with, and I just went straight to preset 5, which is the first of the the EVH preset 5, which is the first setting for the stereo rig, and it's like that's it.
Sounds great.
I'm done. That's it. I don't need to change that. Right, that is it. Right. Hey Mark. Hey, the SM7Bs. Yeah, Mark is the Mark works for sure actually. So,
well, cool. So we're all SM7s. Although I didn't get it for free or anything. I bought it a long time ago.
Yeah, I bought my one too. Mark, I got to know Mark because he sent Dave. I don't know whether you saw this, but there was a 1979 JMP when I was at Shay's place in Indiana.
A Soldano mod?
Yes, that's Mark's.
Yes, I saw it.
Yeah, that's that. So had a lot of problems with that,
A
Mark.
couple of interesting finds in there with the Brong resistor and the negative feedback.
475K negative feedback resistor. Yeah.
That was weird. You know, the funny thing is when I was hearing the video, though, it sounded pretty good with that. and I was kind of thinking, like, when I was hearing the video in the end, I think it might sound better before.
Yeah. I know that's a kind of personal preference thing, right? So, Mark, if you prefer a wilder, brighter amp, you could get in there and change that negative feedback. I think we ended up just tapping the resistor over the top of it.
Yeah.
So you could easily change that. You could email me, man. I think we're going to try.
But it sounded good.
Yeah. Cool amp.
That's cool. For sure.
Cool amp for sure. 39K cathode resistor, right? Straight away. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the front end, the first stage is a 0.68, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
0.68 with what cathode resistor?
It was a 2K7.
Yeah. That's how he normally did the Soldano mods, where his is a 1 UF and a 1.8K.
Yep.
And I like the 0.68 2.7 better.
I actually did. So you bear with me. I'll bring it up. I sketched down the schematic, Dave. I'll send it to you. The first stage is a 220K plate with a 2K7 cathode and a 0.68 bypass.
Yep.
And then 0.022 coupler.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got a 1000 picofarad 1 meg network, triple pico.
Okay.
Then into the gain pot.
Yeah, 500K gain pot, or
it's a 1 meg.
Oh, it's a 1 meg.
2,200 picofarad bright cap. Well, that's where we ended up. I think it wasn't that to begin with. It was some crazy value. 470K grid stopper. The next stage is 1.8K with 1 UF.
Yeah.
100K plate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of it, and then into the 470K 1 meg voltage divider. And
that sounds typical Soldano.
Yeah, then the 39K cathode with a 100K plate with the big plate snubber on it.
Yeah.
So yeah. What type of pickup magnets and wines would generally be your personal go-to, and why?
Oh man.
This is
a wide open topic here.
It depends. There you go.
Yeah, it depends exactly. I like El Nico 2 and I like El Nico 5, and they do different things. It depends on the pickup and who's winding it and it depends on so much about it. It's like, is it a JB style wind? Is it a 8K wind? Is it, do I like the A2 with the JB? Do I like the, I don't know.
This is why you got to have a few guitars, like
absolutely.
People, non-guitarists don't understand, do they? But
yeah,
we
I just started kind of doing that recently, like having two guitars right next to the bench, and one with a JB in it, and one with what I normally like, which is like a Motor City 2nd degree black belt, which is real open.
You like that pickup, don't you?
Yeah, it's a big, open, percussive, punchy pickup, and but it's interesting when you're voicing amps to hear both.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, maybe I'll tweak it a little bit for this pickup and then listen to the other pickup, and then go, oh, that works for that too. Okay, cool. Dial it in for both, kind of. So it's kind of across the board.
Yeah, I mean, they're just different variables, right? I mean, it depends what guitar is that pickup in, what amp are you playing it into.
Yeah.
This is why you need a few different ones. There's a request here for another rack episode with Mike Nielsen and Nielsen.
Michael Torin, yeah. Michael Torin's insane. He has every preamp known to mankind.
This is why the voltage. This is why the voltage in his area is lower, because he's sucking up all that gear. Yeah, he's got an insane amount of stuff.
Insane collection. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
Small box versus a 1987 X, I guess. This was the question about the overdriver in front, Dave, and being congested with a Marshall style preamp, which I think is a reference to the small box versus a Plexi. So I think the question really is like, you know, why does a boost sound different in a Plexi than it does in front of a?
Well, the Plexi is less. It's less gain. It's
less gain.
Less gain. It's just it's less compression, less gain. You're boosting it. It's probably boosting volume too a little bit. Of course, that depends on how you're running the Plexi.
If you think of the amp like Dave's small box amp, it's got an extra gain stage in the preamp compared to a Plexi, and so when you put your pedal in front of that, you got a whole extra gain stage that's in the circuit. So it's just, you get to the point where it's like, this is just the whole thing about, you know, when is there too much gain? You know, some people they just want more and more and more gain, but it just gets too compressed and undefined.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it loses all the dynamics.
Yeah.
Bray, do you know much about Bray amps?
Yeah. David Bray's a friend. He's an awesome guy, and I think he makes a pretty decent sounding amp, you know. I have nothing but good things to say about David. So you know, whether or not the amp does early VH stuff spot on or not, that's a whole nother question. What does that mean?
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with the player too, you know.
Yeah, of course. Do you like the straight cabs, Dave, or the angled?
I like straight generally.
Same.
But I've heard some great angle cabs too, so I can't rule them out.
Does Friedman make an angled cab?
We do not. I made some for Chris Schiffler from the Foo Fighters years ago.
Custom
ones. But I don't. We've never made them.
So you have a straight cab with the baffle just angled back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like an original.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I think we're at the end.
I think so too. We've been doing it 2.5 hours.
Pretty good session.
Yeah.
Nice one.
It's a good one.
Well, thanks for coming on, Dave.
Yeah, anytime.
Man, this was awesome. And look, we'll do it again for sure. Well, I hope we will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why not?
Cool.
Fit it in there somewhere?
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, whenever Mark's on vacation or whatever, or you got,
or not,
you got to spare time.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep in contact. So we'll definitely do another one, guys. So thanks for all the questions and the super chats, and we'll see you again soon.
Awesome. See you guys later. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.